Yellowstone Season 5 finale has arrived, and it's nothing short of explosive. With John Dutton's tragic death, Jamie's dark secrets coming to light, and Beth Dutton's thirst for revenge finally unleashed, this episode ties up loose ends in a shocking, heart-stopping way. Did Jamie finally pay for his sins, or did he get away scot-free? And what about Beth? Did she get the ultimate payback she promised her father? Grab your popcorn because we're about to break down Yellowstone's most intense, emotional, and thrilling finale ever. The episode kicks off in a manner that feels nearly just like the calm earlier than the hurricane. We're taken to the Yellowstone Ranch, where we see the aftermath of John Dutton's loss of life. The ranch has been offered off piece via piece, the whole lot from land and gadget to horses, just to keep the circle of relatives afloat for a touch even as longer. Beth, as cold and calculated as ever, makes positive to cover the debts. But the question stays, how long will this brief moment of alleviation remaining? The pace is gradual before everything, almost like we're easing into the heartbreak. However, consider me. That is simply the calm earlier than the hurricane. As the Yellowstone family struggles to pick out up the pieces, we're delivered to Casey's plan, a glimmer of hope in the chaos. Casey, always thinking ahead, proposes a solution that doesn't involve just saving the ranch. It involves something even bigger. He strikes a deal with Thomas Rainwater to sell the Yellowstone land back to the tribe for $125 an acre, the same price it was bought for generations ago. In exchange, Rainwater pledges to restore the land to its original state. With one exception, Casey asks for the East Camp to be returned to him, to start his own family ranch. But as we watch this agreement unfold, we also know that there's a much darker, more personal issue at play. Despite the sale and the desire for a new future, the looming presence of Jamie still hangs over the Dutton circle of relatives like a shadow. Jamie, who has been a thorn in their side for goodbye, remains lurking, and regardless of what seems like a resolution with the land, there's still one very huge question left unanswered. Did Jamie genuinely pay for his position in his father's dying? And what's Beth's subsequent flow? John Dutton's funeral is a somber affair. It's no longer the grand occasion we might count on for a man of his stature, but a quiet, intimate rite with most effective the nearest of circle of relatives and buddies. As the Dutton Ranch palms dig the grave and smooth up afterward, we are able to assist, however, sense the load of this moment. John Dutton, the man who constructed the empire, is finally laid to rest. But there's an atypical absence here. Jamie isn't present, and it's clean he's not invited. This moment is all about own family, and Jamie, notwithstanding being the flesh and blood of the Duttons, is no longer a part of it. Beth, in her grief, offers a promise on the funeral that shakes us to the core. She vows to avenge her father, and we know she's extreme. This isn't just a traditional Dutton promise, it's a Beth promise. And whilst Beth says something, she's going to follow through. This vow units the level for what's to come back subsequent: revenge. After all the emotional buildup, the moment we've all been waiting for finally arrives. The question we've been asking ourselves throughout this entire season, and even the entire series, is finally answered. Did Jamie pay for his sins? And if so, how far will Beth go to make him pay? Beth, still raw from the loss of her father, has made her decision. She won't let Jamie walk free. Not after everything he's done to her family. The tension builds slowly, but the payoff is massive when we see Beth gear up for the final confrontation. In an incredibly tense moment, she grabs a can of bear spray and a massive knife, symbols of both her resolve and her readiness to face whatever comes next. We all know that when Beth prepares for something, there's no turning back. This isn't just about family anymore, it's personal. The Yellowstone family is also facing major life changes. Walker, Jake, Ethan, and even Terror all begin to chart their own futures, taking new jobs, moving on from the ranch, and trying to build new lives. It's bittersweet because, while we're used to seeing the Yellowstone crew as one unit, it's clear that everyone is moving on. Even Lloyd, who has been with the ranch from the beginning, chooses to stay in Montana, opting for a quieter life. It's a major shift for all of them. They've all spent years working the land, building this family together, but now, with John gone, everything is changing. It's as if the world they've known is slipping through their fingers. This sense of change is felt deeply by Rip as well. When Beth reveals that she's purchased a huge piece of land just outside Dillon, Montana, Rip is initially shocked but quickly gives his approval. After all, if Beth has already made a decision, there's not much to say. Classic Beth. Always one step ahead. She doesn't just think of the present, she plans for the future, even when it's uncertain. But for Rip, this is a moment of new beginnings, a chance to plant roots in a place that's far from the chaos of Yellowstone Ranch. It's clear that Rip is ready for a change, but Beth, as always, is looking to the future, making moves that will change the course of their lives forever. As Beth drives off to God knows in, which Rip speedy portions things together. He knows precisely wherein she's headed, and he received and allow her face Jamie on my own. The two of them may also had been via hell and back. However, in relation to the human beings they love, there's no hesitation. Rip, along with his unwavering loyalty to Beth, follows her, decided to shield her, despite the fact that it means confronting Jamie as soon as and for all. Now, permits speak approximately that disagreement. Beth arrives at Jamie's domestic, and it doesn't take long earlier than she assaults him from behind. The fight that ensues is brutal, one of the maximum photograph and excessive moments in Yellowstone records of Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 14 finale. It's not simply bodily, it's a fight of emotion too. Jamie, determined to protect himself, gets bloody however doesn't back down. He swings back at Beth with a rawness that makes it clean. This war is about more than simply the prevailing. It's the culmination of years of betrayal, manipulation, and strength struggles. But as we watch the combat spread, there's a second wherein we may additionally start to sense a little sympathy for Jamie. For a split 2D, he seems vulnerable. Is he ultimately knowing the outcomes of his movements? Is he eventually coming to terms with what he's completed? Well, that moment doesn't last lengthy. The real Jamie, self-serving, manipulative, and determined to break the entirety his circle of relatives has constructed, fast resurfaces. Jamie reveals his true colors in a chilling confession in Yellowstone Season 5. He admits that he planned to place the blame for his father's demise on Beth. His intention? To flip the Yellowstone Ranch right into a recreational enchantment, turning it right into a money-making gadget that would destroy the entirety the Duttons stood for. But there's greater. He's no longer simply seeking out energy, he's looking for revenge. He desires to damage his circle of relatives, piece through piece, simply to get returned at them for what he perceives as their wrongdoings. This confession is a gut punch. After the whole thing we've seen Jamie do, after all of the instances he's tried to undermine John, Beth, and the whole family, we in the end see the genuine extent of his treachery. And with that, any remaining sympathy we'd have had for Jamie evaporates. Beth, in her fury, makes sure that Jamie Gain to be capable of carry out his plan. As she stands over him, with the craze of years of struggling fueling her every flow, she grants the very last blow. With a knife pushed immediately into Jamie's heart, she ends his lifestyles, ending his twisted desires of destroying her circle of relatives as soon as and for all. It's a surprising moment, one which leaves us all reeling. But whilst Beth provides this final, brutal act, there's no hesitation in her eyes. This is what she's been building towards all season long, but the drama doesn't quit there. Rip, ever the protector, isn't going to let Beth face the outcomes on my own. He is aware of what desires to be carried out. Without skipping a beat, he gets rid of Jamie's frame, but in place of simply leaving it behind, he takes it to the train station, a place of dying, a place of finality. It's symbolic, the manner he disposes of Jamie, as though to say, this chapter is over. We're accomplished. And Beth? She remains behind, calling 911 and setting up a story in order to make certain Jamie's loss of life doesn't come lower back to hang out them. She claims Jamie attacked her and fled, and he or she gives just sufficient evidence to make sure the cops will by no means join him to the homicide. Meanwhile, Rip is going to work burning Jamie's vehicle, making it appear like Jamie became seeking to cowl his tracks. The plot is ideal, an easy setup that ties up all of the free ends, making it impossible for all and sundry to hint Jamie's dying again to the Duttons. As the police arrive, in Yellowstone Season 5 Episode 14 finale, they buy Beth's story. Hook, line, and sinker. The evidence is there, and they have no reason to suspect otherwise. But here's the kicker. We know the truth. We know what happened behind closed doors, and the Duttons are once again able to outwit the law and protect their own. But even with Jamie gone, the emotional fallout of his death, and Beth's role in it, lingers. Rip's final act is symbolic, too. As the episode nears its end, Rip locks down the Yellowstone Ranch, taking down the iconic ranch sign with a sense of finality that hits us right in the gut. The Yellowstone Ranch is no more, and with it goes the last vestiges of John Dutton's legacy. The land, as soon as an image of the Duttons' energy and control, is now inside the hands of the indigenous people, lower back to them in an act of honor for his or her ancestral birthright. But even as the vintage guard falls, we see a brand new future emerging. Casey, ever the circle of relatives guy, begins to build his very own legacy. He's not simply inheriting the Yellowstone, he's forging his personal course. He starts via buying farm animals at a public sale and teaching his son the fundamentals of ranching. This marks the beginning of a new bankruptcy for Casey and his own family, one this is much less approximately the land, and extra approximately growing something lasting and meaningful for his very own. While the Duttons can be shifting ahead, the end of the episode is bittersweet. We see Beth and Rip sooner or later get away from the ranch, looking for peace in a quieter lifestyles in Dillon, Montana. Beth even jokes that Rip might build her a bar if there wasn't one nearby, and it's a small, however beautiful second in their bond. They've been via so much, and now they're geared up to start fresh, far from the chaos. But their story isn't over. Now, not by way of a long shot. As the dust settles in Yellowstone Season 5, Episode 14 finale, we're left with a sense of both closure and anticipation. The Yellowstone finale doesn't just close the ebook on the Dutton circle of relatives' tumultuous saga, it opens a brand new chapter, one which promises trade, redemption, and new beginnings. After Beth's heart-stopping act of vengeance and Jamie's loss of life, the Duttons might also have won this struggle, but the battle has left its scars. John Dutton, their patriarch, is long past, and with him, the ranch as we know it has crumbled. But in spite of all of the chaos, there's a bittersweet sense of peace as we watch the last Duttons flow forward. The Yellowstone Ranch may also not exist in its former glory, but the land, in a stunning act of redemption, is back to its authentic custodians, the indigenous humans. Rainwater's selection to restore the land to its herbal kingdom is a profound shift, symbolizing the go-back of strength to the rightful proprietors. This marks the quit of an era, however additionally the begin of something better, something extra in track with nature and records. For Casey, that is the start of a legacy of his personal. He's no longer tied to the family's antique empire. Alternatively, he's carving out a new direction. By shopping cattle and teaching his son the ways of ranching, Casey is creating something that transcends the mistakes of the beyond. His adventure is a hopeful one, a destiny built on his personal phrases, far away from the Dutton dynasty's dark shadow. Beth and Rip, in the meantime, are finally able to walk far from the chaos. Their flow to Dillon, Montana, marks the primary time they've been free to construct a life together, away from the negative forces that have defined their life. It's a quiet, intimate moment for the two of them, and though they've continued infinite trials, it's clean that their bond is unbreakable. As Beth jokes about Rip constructing her a bar, it's a sweet reminder of the simplicity and peace they're now striving for. No more chaos, no greater bloodshed, simply each other. But the finale leaves us with questions. Will Beth's role in Jamie's death ever come to mild? Will the loss seize up with the Duttons? What lies beforehand for their new lives in Dillon? The truth is, even as the Yellowstone chapter is remaining, there are nevertheless many untold tales, and with the confirmed byproduct collection focused on Beth and Rip, it's clear that their adventure is far from over. The Yellowstone Season 5 finale changed into a roller coaster of emotions, one which brought high stakes, stunning twists, and a feel of finality. It's a fitting end to a saga that has captured our attention for years. But as we are saying goodbye to the Yellowstone Ranch, we additionally say hey to new adventures, new legacies, and the hope that the Dutton's tale isn't absolutely finished. How became the finishing of Yellowstone Season 5? Share your thoughts in the comments section and subscribe our channel Mr. Perfect for Yellowstone Season 6 update. Thanks.